This is a combined telescopic and articulating boom elevating work platform. It elevates, it may be telescopic, and it may articulate. These elevating work platforms, or EWPs, come in all shapes and sizes. There are battery-powered ones for indoor work like warehouses where noise and fumes must be kept to a minimum. There are diesel ones for outdoor work. And there are even some with both kinds of power unit which can work inside and out. Basically, EWPs do what scaffolding and ladders do, but in a fraction of the time, letting you work at a higher level. Which would you prefer, scaffolding and ladders or an EWP? Operating an EWP is mostly a matter of common sense and making sure you do things in a professional way. The aim of this video is to show you how to use these machines properly and safely. It makes sense, doesn't it? In the course of the next few minutes, we'll be looking at the checks you have to do before you operate these platforms. We'll take a look at the planning you need to do before you use a platform and some of the hazards you'll have to deal with. And we'll take a look at what you can lift with an EWP. We'll see what makes a safe working platform and a safe working environment. But first, let's have a closer look at some telescopic and articulating boom mobile EWPs and see what makes them tick. As I said, these machines come in all shapes and sizes, but they have some things in common. The platform extends vertically, and you can then reach out to give you an up and over capability. And then you can also rotate through up to 360 degrees, as specified by the manufacturer. Even when reaching as far as they can, the platforms are stable, provided they're used in accordance with the manufacturer's specifications. Some platforms also have jacks or outriggers for extra stability, and some of these won't elevate until they're deployed. With others, you can even move them while they're elevated, but there are safety mechanisms which only allow the platforms to move very slowly so that the operator can maintain control. You may have the need to bring down heavy objects, but it's something you have to be very careful about. EWPs are lifting devices, but not cranes. So, although they're not cranes, EWPs come in many different forms and can be used in many different situations. Indoor and outdoor, battery and diesel, big or small, short reach, long reach, jacks or outriggers, platforms or baskets. And of course their control panels come in all different shapes and sizes too. You better check that out before you use a machine for the first time. And talking of checks, before you start work, you have to inspect your machine, every shift, without fail. It isn't the hire company's responsibility, it's yours. And yes, it's a legal requirement. Some people think that checking is a daunting task, but it isn't if you approach it in the right way. Walk around your machine. Check everything as you come to it. Wheel and tire in good condition. But if you see one like this, don't use the machine. Hydraulic oil reservoir. Some of these have gauges, some have dipsticks. Mind the fluid doesn't get onto your skin though. It may cause dermatitis. Always be on the lookout for drips. Even the slightest hydraulic leak may be a sign of potential trouble. Another wheel, another tire. Good. Batteries and terminals in good condition. Electrolyte is covering all the plates, no leaks, no corrosion. Oh, and there's another golden rule. Don't smoke while you're checking batteries. They produce explosive hydrogen gas. What's the engine oil level like? All right. Last 2 wheels and tyres. No problems with both of those. Give the gates and guardrails a good checking. Yes, they're secure. Anchor points in good condition because you'll be harnessed to them. And it's always worth checking there's no rubbish on the platform. Next come the running checks, so you can see if the machine is in good order. If you don't do the running checks, there's always a risk that the platform will go up but not come down again, leaving you stranded. Some running checks can be done at ground level, depending on the make and age of the machine. But by elevating the platform, you can check that things like warning lights and sirens are working, if they're fitted, as well as the lifting mechanism itself. And of course, the controls on the platform itself must be tested, especially those that deal with the emergency descent. This is the provision and use of work equipment regulations, and we must also consider the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974. These 2 documents put specific responsibilities on operators of machines at work. Responsibilities not just for your own safety and well-being, but for other people's too. And to make sure we meet these responsibilities, what we need is a bit of planning. Planning means making sure that we take as much care as possible to create a safe working environment. The ground needs to be firm enough and level enough. Some platforms, whilst moving or stationary, will elevate on slopes of up to 3 to 5 degrees. Check the operator's handbook. If there are no signs to indicate otherwise, you should only elevate on level ground. Even moving a platform across soft ground could result in making it unstable. Of course, there are ways of beating soft ground. You can lay down boards or matting, or make sure the ground is well compacted. But remember, if the ground isn't level and can't be leveled, don't improvise with packing. Just don't raise the platform. Planning is also important when you're moving a platform. You should walk the route, survey it. Make sure that you know about any specific requirements on site, such as one-way traffic or particular doors to use in warehouses. Will you need someone's help to give you directions? Which vehicles have priority? You can answer all these questions with planning. So plan. Most platforms can move in both the lowered position and while they're elevated. And although there are safety devices to stop you going too fast, there may still be obstacles you don't want to meet when you're 30 feet off the ground. Travelling in the lowered position is quicker and also gives you a better chance of seeing any potential problems on the ground. And if you're in the elevated position, remember that you can meet with obstacles up here too, like electricity power lines, telephone wires, lights and pipes. The safety guidelines for the safe clearance of overhead power lines or supplies suspended on steel towers are 15 meters plus the maximum reach of the machine. For supplies supported by wooden or concrete poles, your safety margin is 9 meters plus the maximum outreach of the machine. You must never take risks with electricity. Always presume power lines are live unless you know otherwise. Oh, and why not check your handbook to see if your machine is insulated or not? While we're on the subject of moving platforms, here's something else that you must remember. Never ever tamper with safety devices. They've been put there to protect you. Of course, weather plays a part too. Okay, so you'd hardly take an EWP out in a storm like this, But you do need to be aware of the effects of wind, rain, frost, and even very hot weather. Once again, plan ahead. Your EWP mustn't be used in wind speeds beyond those specified by the manufacturer. Safe working wind speeds are based on the Beaufort scale and range from 0 for calm wind to 9 for strong gale, the kind that blows trees over. The higher you are, the greater the wind speed becomes. It's all explained in your training workbook. The funnel effect of wind between two buildings is also worth looking into. Wet weather is unpleasant to work in, so don't work in it for extended periods. Take extra care. And in the sun, the temptation might be to work on the platform without a shirt. Throw in a little bit of wind chill and you could get sunburnt without even knowing it. Cold, frosty and icy weather also brings its own hazards. Mind steps, they may be icy. Wear gloves. And as your mum might say, wrap up well. Be aware of the wind chill effect. Elevating work platforms are classified as lifting appliances, but the only thing they're meant to lift are people, their tools and equipment. The SWL, or safe working load, of a platform will be found on a plate on the chassis, showing a maximum weight in pounds or kilograms, and a symbol showing how many people can be lifted. The SWL must never be exceeded. As I said before, EWPs are not cranes and they shouldn't be used as cranes. Indeed, it's both illegal and dangerous to use one as a crane. If you can only guess at the weight of your load, then add 25% to your estimate. Be on the safe side. Stability is everything when you're working on a platform at maximum outreach. It already looks as though it's defying the laws of gravity, doesn't it? It's all thanks to some pretty heavy counterweights in the base unit, but even those have their limits. Outriggers are fitted to some EWPs to increase the surface area of the base unit, and jacks can be fitted to make them more stable. They might work manually or by hydraulics, but if they're fitted, they have to be used every time the platform is raised. Overload a platform or use it as a crane, and stability goes straight out of the window. And that's the last thing you need. Obviously, you need to have all the right protective equipment, like your hard hat and your harness. And make sure you use them. It's all part and parcel of working safely in a safe working environment. And because you'll be working some way off the ground, it's a good idea to give your platform a once-over. Are the guardrails secure and safe and in the right place? Does the gate mechanism work properly? Good housekeeping is important. The floor of your platform needs to be clear of everything but you, your tools and your equipment. Loose materials shouldn't be stacked higher than the toe board. They could fall out. Don't drop things from on high. Remember, the health and safety law says that we have a responsibility not only to look after ourselves, but to look after other people too. So you need to consider safety in whatever environment you're working in. By planning ahead and using a bit of common sense, we can create a safe working environment wherever we are. All EWPs have an operating envelope, the area that they can cover while they're at work. Obviously, for some, this area is much bigger than for others. But however big or small the area, we can take steps to see that passers-by don't put themselves unnecessarily at risk. It becomes especially important if you're doing overhead work like cutting or sawing. There are various ways to protect people. Make sure you think about safety when you're about to start work. Well, that's almost it. I hope I've been able to raise your levels of safety awareness wherever and whenever you're using boom EWPs. Treat them with respect and you'll be okay. Well, thank you for concentrating. And now let's just summarize what we've learnt. Well, we know that these platforms come in all shapes and sizes for all kinds of work, and that some of them are telescopic and some are articulating. We know that machines must always be checked thoroughly before they're put to work. Check your machine before you go out in it. Do both static checks and running checks. Learn everything there is to know about your machine. Then there's planning. By planning ahead, such as inspecting your route and worksite, you can help to keep yourself and others safe, as the law requires. Be aware of the safe working load of your platform, and be aware that it isn't a crane. If you're ever making estimates about the weight of a load, estimate on the side of caution. Have a good look at the platform before you elevate. Make sure it's safe. Make sure everything is clear, secure, and in the right place. And remember that you are legally obliged to keep yourself and other people safe. Take all necessary steps to ensure a safe working environment for everyone. Make sure you never exceed the manufacturer's recommendations for height, lifting capacity, and for operating in high winds or other weather conditions. And when in doubt, simply consult the manufacturer's handbook. Stay safe and enjoy your work. Now I really know what it's like to have friends in high places.